meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell! Give 'em a hand! And let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town, of New York town.
And we are live. Happy Monday, Mets fans. Thanks so much to everyone chiming in. We're in for an action-packed episode here at New York Mets Talk. Myself alongside my man Richie at New York Mets Media. So, guys, we have a lot to talk about today regarding the Mets and this big series win against the Nationals, the positives and negatives, really recapping and reviewing each and every game, giving our thorough thoughts on the matter, and also then previewing the upcoming series against the Red Sox starting on Tuesday. So, guys, thanks so much to everyone chiming in. I see Dominic, a great member here on the channel. What's up, buddy? Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate that, my man. Luke, how's it going? Luke Harrison, Polar Bear, Pete, Sandy. Yes, I did make the intro myself. Nate, Cindy, everyone, just thank you all so much, AB, for coming to watch our doors. Oh, my friend, appreciate all you guys. And before I go any further, before we break anything down, Richie, how are you doing on this fine Monday, my man?
I am doing fantastic. Always a pleasure to be here on your channel. I'm so excited to get in and talk about our New York Mets winning the series against the Washington Nationals. And for those guys that know who I am, I'm happy about my New York Knicks because we're on a 9-game winning streak. So vibes are good right now for me. My Mets and Knicks, they're looking great.
Vibes are good indeed, my man. I'm so pumped for the Knicks, and not that this is a Knicks channel or anything, but seriously, they have a chance to get double digits in their win column straight tonight. So tall tasks. We'll see how they do against a really, really good Suns team. But regardless of everything else, guys, I hope you all have had a great start to your day, a great start to your week, which should hopefully be a positive week for our Metsies, right? But we have a lot to talk about. So, again, thanks so much to everyone being here. But seriously, let's just dive in, my man, because what a series this was. There were some highs. There were definitely some lows. But one thing is for sure, the Mets win a crucial series against the Washington Nationals, which, as we know, series matchups are going to be probably more important than anything else this year, especially how the season is constructed. They're going to be facing off against the Phillies, the Braves, the Nats by far more than any other team. So let's take a quick recap, shall we, of how this series has transpired for the Mets. And let's start off here, and I made a separate video on it. I know that you did too, Richie, on how fantastic of a game it was, the opening game, which I really was upset I didn't stream that for Mr. Jacob Degrom, Brandon Nemo, Michael Conforto, name a few. But it was really the Degrom show, simply Degrominant. But let's get into this win. This was a massive win for the Mets, this one. And Jacob Degrom has a complete game shutout. He was remarkable. 9 innings pitched. Again, I talked about this previously, so make sure to check out my video, guys. But 9 innings pitched, only gave up 2 hits, 15 strikeouts, a new career high, and also is the third pitcher in MLB history to have 3 consecutive games with 14 strikeouts or more. Also now the first in MLB history to have 50 strikeouts in his first 4 appearances for the season. So much to love about that, but a highlight in particular, the Mets won that game, and Brandon Nemo just went absolutely off for the Mets in that one, went 3 for 5, his first start coming off of a couple games where he didn't play in Wrigley because he was dealing with some hip tightness. 3 for 5, a home run, his first on the season, 4 RBIs. Michael Conforto, who's been a very controversial player to start the season. You guys know by now, Michael's my favorite player. He always will be, even through his highs and his lows. That's just how it's going to be. He had a strong game, though, went 2 for 3 on the day as well. And then Jacob Degrom was another one of the best bats for the Mets, as he's done all season long. He's batting 500 on the season at least already. 2 for 4 on the 18th, including an RBI. That was an RBI opposite field double back in the bottom of the 5th. So, guys, I want to know your initial reaction to that game. I see some of you guys were actually in attendance. Luis is saying that. Blacklist Outdoors, thanks so much, my man. I can't wait to check it out. I've been checking the P.O. Box bite, and I also have to give a big shout out to another person here on the channel too regarding that. So seriously, thank you all so much, guys. A lot of great thoughts here. But Richie, what was your initial reaction to this game? A Degrominant performance like no other, and that 6-0 victory to start things off in this series.
Yeah, man. And shout out to everybody in the chat. Hope you guys are enjoying your day, and let's go Mets. I'm excited to get into this, and I appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning in to each live stream here on my channel or Wardy's channel. It means the world to us. So let's get into this game. I was at a loss for words throughout the entire game. We witnessed a player elevate the entire team to a victory. And Brendan Nemo said it himself after the game, the press conference. Baseball is a team sport. It is extremely rare to have one player single-handedly guide a team to a victory, and that's what Jacob Degrom is doing. And this is not his first time ever doing it. For him to go 9 innings, 15 strikeouts, give up only 2 hits, and have 2 hits of his own, and have an RBI, and he scored 2 runs, this man is on another level. I love that Rojas actually batted Degrom in the 8-hole because, you got to give him credit where credit's deserved. Degrom was at the plate multiple times, and he hit the ball. He looks like he's the best hitter on the Mets outside of Nemo. And Pete Alonso, obviously it's a joke. But, man, the Grominance is real. He's just single-handedly elevating this team to another level, and his mind is on another planet. And it's just we're witnessing greatness. And I love how his career ERA went below Tom Seaver the day of one of his best career days as a New York Met. And it's just insane, man. It feels like every time he goes to the mound, I'm waiting for him to blow me away even more. And I feel like it's impossible for him to make Mets fans feel like he's greater than he actually is, but he does not disappoint. Every time he goes on the mound, we're witnessing something that we're never going to see again. He's a generational talent, and I'm so thankful that he's on our side. My entire life, I've never had somebody that I can look at on my team and say, this guy is going to be in the Hall of Fame guaranteed, and he's the all-time great in his position. And I'm happy that Jacob Degrom is that player that I'm witnessing, and we can all appreciate. And, hey, we got to give the Mets credit as well, because we know earlier on in the season it was a big curse. Oh, my gosh, the Mets, they're not going to score for Jake. Jacob Degrom gets no run support, which they have not gave Jake run support. But, hey, they scored 6 runs, and Jake had to get some, I think the first RBI that was scored was from Jacob Degrom, ironically enough. But we got some run support for Jake. We got some defense behind Jake, which we didn't even need a lot of defense because he struck out 15 batters of his own. So there's not a lot of balls in play. But he's pitching 101. He's pitching 93, 94 sliders. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It feels like he's just getting better and better with age. He said that he wants to pitch well into his 40s because he wants to become a Hall of Famer in his own little circle. And he understands he needs to pitch really well all the way until his 40s and is on his way to do it. And we're witnessing a Tom Seaver, but of our generation. I know my uncle and my dad, they always told me, you don't understand how great Seaver was. They didn't even know what a pitch count was back then. He would always pitch 9 innings. And today's game, you don't see a lot of pitchers go all the way into the 9. Obviously, there's complete games and no hitters here and there, but it's very rare for a player to go beyond 7 innings. And Jacob Degrom already has an 8-inning pitch game. Now he has a complete game, and he's going to get better and better. I just don't understand. I heard somebody, I don't remember who it was, but they compared Jacob Degrom to Tom Brady. And the only reason why they did that is because Tom Brady aged like fine wine. He got better as he got older. And that's what Jacob Degrom looks like he's going to do. He still has a long way to go. And if Jake can continue this trajectory and pitch like he's doing until he's 38 plus and he's a Met for life, as we hope, we're in good hands, man. I mean, we have greatness on this team, and I'm very thankful. And I just want to go up to Jacob Degrom myself and give him a big hug and be like, yo, Jake, thank you. We appreciate you, and keep up the great work.
I couldn't have said it better.
One more thing. I think if he keeps this up, he could be an MVP, especially if he hits the way he does for the rest of the year, because as we know, there's no DH.
Yeah.
But if he can hit the ball the way he is doing right now, I think he's batting well over 500. He could be an MVP of the league, not only in Cy Young, but an MVP.
Yeah, I mean, if he does his best Shohei Ohtani impression every fifth day, because it's not like, you're going to go out your way to make sure he's batting in the lineup when he's not pitching, right? But if he can go this season and possibly bat upwards of 300, which is a tall task, but it won't be a lot of outings either. Let's take that into account. If he can do that and can be simply dominant where he's clearly the Cy Young winner, yeah, I think he's definitely deserving of getting some MVP votes in there at 100%. I don't think it's going to happen, but I really, really hope I'm wrong in that category. He is the face of this team, and it's funny how you mentioned Tom Brady, because I'm not a Brady guy whatsoever. I think most of us are not.
Me
Brady
neither. I'm a Jets fan. I hate Tom Brady.
Exactly, and I'm a Steelers fan, so there you go. But it's kind of funny when you see this, because you got two guys you're comparing to Jake in one way or another, and they're both Tom Terrifics in their respective category. You have Seaver and now, of course, Brady. And it's interesting when you think about Jake and where is he solidifying himself among all the greats. Oh, wait, I'm hearing my echo. Pardon me. Is that from you, Richie, or is that just me?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Hold on.
Okay.
Try to talk now.
Okay. I think that's better. Okay, perfect. All right. So, yeah, I think it's really interesting when you think about Jake and where he has solidified himself in the actual, history books for not just the Mets, but MVP, Cy Young, and being a Hall of Famer, right? And yes, he doesn't have the World Series to back it up right now. But what does he have? He has simply being Degrom. He has unbiased, and I can unbiasedly say this, I think we can all agree that Jake has put himself into another spectrum when it comes to being a starting pitcher in today's MLB. And it's something that no one is even on the same level on, even with guys, the Garrett Coles, the Trevor Bauers of recent history, if you will, that you really want to go. Or before him, Max Scherzer for the longest time was the absolute GOAT in the MLB at some point of being just simply dominant, multiple Cy Youngs, all these guys. But Jake is so unique. He's so different. For 3.5 years now, he has been the best pitcher in baseball consistently. And you can even I really wouldn't even put too much stock into 2020. He didn't win the Cy Young, but over a 162, I'm still taking Jake any and every day of the week. Like, he just has so many elements to himself. And while he has gone into his early 30s now, he's 32 years of age, I believe, he literally looks like Benjamin Button out there. And I've been saying that for a while. Like, as he gets older, he looks like he's getting younger at the same time. The velocity's going up. He hit 101 in the 7th inning in that outing. That's unheard of. Where do you see guys hitting 100 consistently throughout a game? Like, it's absolutely nothing. Like, that is just so mind-blowing in my mind. Jake doesn't even need to use all the pitches in his arsenal on a given day. He can just stick with the fastball and the slider, and that's it. Just that 1-2 punch. He'll throw in the changeup when he feels need be, but it's not even it's not even something that he fully needs on it every 5th day, just because of how good he is with his simple stuff, with just the fastball and the slider. He's so elite in that respect, and that's just one of the main things as to why he's so good. He doesn't even have a big arsenal, but he doesn't need it because of how dominating his stuff truly is. But that was a fantastic win by the Mets. And again, guys, thank you all so much to all my Mets and baseball fans chiming in. If you guys are enjoying our live stream as we're breaking down the series win recap against the Nationals, please make sure to smash that like button. Really mean a lot. Help us get to 100 likes by the end of the stream. Always does mean a ton, guys. Best way to show the support. Also, make sure to not subscribe, not just to myself for consistent Mets content, helping us get to 7K subscribers, but make sure to subscribe to my man Richie at Mets Media. He's really, really close to 1,000 subs, guys. So
guys, let me get to 1,000 subs. I appreciate
let him get there.
Down below in the description, I recap all the series, all the games. Make sure you check out Mets Media and subscribe. And if you guys are not subscribed and you go subscribe, let me know in the chat and I'll give you a shout out.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thanks so much everyone being here. Timothy with a great comment saying, a loyal member here on the channel, you think Nemo's going to be all-star? I agree. I think we will see him at the all-star game at this pace. And again, everyone else, I appreciate you. Matthew, you're going to be at the game in May for the Braves. That's awesome. Awesome, buddy. I know we talked about that. And yes, Alonso and Walker did have their black shirts on. So it looks like that we will see the black jerseys sooner than later.
I love that they're teasing it. I love how they're teasing the black jerseys before they even put it on.
I know. I think we're going to see the black jerseys possibly in mid to late May, because I know that they play against the Braves on a Friday. And I feel like that would be the perfect start for them against a rival like that. I think that they may play against the Orioles on a Friday too, but something tells me it might be that Braves series. So we'll see. We'll see. But again, thank you all so much, guys. So
shout out to Edgar and Brandon for subscribing to the Mets Media. Appreciate you guys. Welcome to the Mets Media community.
Okay, we got Kim John over here saying Richie say walk and then he'll sub. So what are you going to do, Richie?
I don't know why everyone wants me to say that word. Let me know why you want me to say that word and I'll say it.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't understand.
Who do I think will be our all-stars this year? Jack Palomero says, what's up, buddy? Honestly, I think there's a lot of guys, and we can go back to that. Richie, try to remember that question. once we're done with the recaps and everything, because I want to answer that one. But guys, so let's get into game number 2 of this series, because this was not the positive one. This is the one that everyone wants to turn away and act like
we
it
don't
didn't
have to
happen.
talk about this. Like,
Of
there was
course,
no
of
errors in
course
the field. Stroman
I
pitched a
know.
good game. Conforto did his thing.
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
But
I
still,
don't
we
know.
got to break it down. So the Mets lose this one in really uncomfortable fashion. They lose 7-1. Marcus Stroman was not the Marcus Stroman that we had seen the previous 3 or 4 outings, but still, he's had a great start to the season, no less. In only 4 innings pitched, he gave up 8 hits, 5 runs, but only 4 earned runs because there was an error by Michael Conforto to start the game. That was horrendous. Had 4 strikeouts, so not a great outing for Stro, but again, you're not going to be fantastic every time out there. That's just inevitable. Conforto did not have a strong game. He did have a home run, so he backed up, you could say, his error there, but still, it's kind of like the JD Davis situation. It's something that you don't want to happen. You want to hope that they're just both thriving in both positions, not just offensively or not just defensively. You want that in between. So he did get a home run, his first on the season, 1 for 4 on the day. Pete Alonso was 2 for 3 on the day as well.
He's heating up.
Go ahead. What are you going to say?
I was just saying Pete's heating up. Continue.
No, Pete is definitely heating up. I have a lot to say about him soon. Stephen Tarpley, who the Mets called up, brought from the alternate site because they put Betances on the 60-day IL. Betances will probably never pitch again for this club. I highly doubt it, given his injuries and just everything really going wrong for him since his major injuries suffered with the Yankees ending his tenure there. But he's gone. Tarpley comes in. Tarpley has struggled with his command plenty as a guy that really, he got cut basically. I believe he was DFA'd by the Marlins this offseason. Then the Mets picked him up. And yeah, 0 innings pitched, literally 0 innings pitched, gave up 2 runs to make it a 6-run lead there for the Nationals. And that really hurt. And the Mets just could never bounce back. But so the Mets lose this one. But I would like to give a huge highlight here. If there was one guy that stood out to me in that game, other than Pete Alonso, it was Robert Gsellman. And these are things that tend to get overlooked at times when you're in a blowout loss. But you need a guy to get serviceable innings. And Gsellman gave the Mets 3 shutdown innings where he gave up no runs in that game, which was huge because Stroman didn't have a big game. Then you have Tarpley, literally didn't even pitch an inning. So you bring Gsellman, and he was able to pitch 3 full innings without giving up 1 run in a game where everything was kind of going wrong for the Mets. So again, it's kind of easy to overlook those things when things aren't necessarily in the Mets' favor for a game, but I thought that was very impressive. Give kudos, give credit where credit is due. Robert Gsellman had a very serviceable outing. That saved the Mets their arms for that game, big time. They could have went through a lot more guys than they should have going into then the rubber match the following day against the Nats. So the Mets lose that one. Is there anything that you would like to add on to that? And then if you want to look at any of the comments regarding this too, you surely can.
For sure. And shout out to the Disney dude for subscribing. Appreciate that.
Awesome.
Thank you, go, guys. Brace yourselves. I'm going to say the word. Walk. There you go. Said the word. Congratulations, Richie. I said the word. I don't know why it's a big deal, but walk, walk, walk. Walk, walk, walk.
I never want to see it in the comments again, or you're blocked. You're blocked.
Yeah, seriously. No more Richie say walk in the comments. I said it 4 times. I'll say it one more time. Walk. All right. Let's get into the game 2 recap. Hey, man, Michael Conforto, let's get into him. He struggled in right field, but hey, I've noticed a trend. JD Davis, that one game where he had terrible errors in the field. What did he do? Didn't he have a home run that game? Michael Conforto, he had a terrible error in right field, and it resulted into a run. What did Michael Conforto do? He backed it up with a home run. So the Mets, they understand that defense is a priority. And hey, we're going to get into the recap from yesterday's game because the defense was spectacular.
Talk about it.
It's actually crazy how Saturday was a defensive nightmare. Sunday was a defensive, absolute brilliance, exactly. Right. So Saturday's game, Stroman, I felt like he was going to have a game like that eventually. Stroman's not Degrom. He's not going to have a sub-1 ERA and go 4-0. Like I did not expect that to happen. He came down to earth a little bit. Michael Conforto, like I said, he struggled in the field, but I like that he's hitting the ball really hard. The 2 outs that he did have that game were hard hit balls, and he did have a home run down the right field line and hit the pole. So it's good to see Conforto there. And yeah, man, like you said, Gsellman, he looked good, which is a really good part of the bullpen that we need to make sure that Gsellman is there because he's a big worry. Every single Mets fan do not like Gsellman when he's coming out of the bullpen. We're like, no. But he deserves a lot of credit. I'm happy that you gave him that credit. But hey, we lost that game. Let's get into yesterday's game.
Yes. So let's get into really what made this such a great series in the end for the Mets in one way or another, right? And also just thanks so much to everyone chiming in. I appreciate you guys. Smash that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And yes, sure. I did see Timothy, a member here on the channel, says, you heard Thor hitting 97 already. Yes, Tim, if you don't know, Thor has actually been hitting 97 for easily the past month plus. I remember when Rojas, right in the beginning of the season, gave an update on how Thor is looking, and he was already hitting 97. So that is not a surprise to me. That's good to see Thor doing that already, now starting to face batters. As we know, he's on pace to be ready in June. Everything's looking great.
So hyped for Syndergaard,
so hyped for him, man. Like this season hasn't even really begun yet in my eyes, and it really won't like kick in until everyone's clicking, and then the rotation's healthy. The bullpen's
top three
healthy.
of the rotation is deadly right now. If you see the numbers from Degrom, Stroman, and Walker through the first 3 weeks of the season, it's elite. We have a 1.5 ERA or something around those lines, and obviously DeGrom's helping out. But Walker had a very good performance yesterday. We're going to get into that right now. But man, I'm loving what I'm seeing from the pitching.
Yeah, no, so have I. Absolutely. So let's get into now the game 3. What a game this was yesterday. The Mets came out with a wacky lineup in one way or another, but I was like, I felt confident about it. Something about the Mets when they come out with their wacky lineups earlier this year, where maybe you just see all the bench guys out there. This time Almora gets his first start of the season. Finally, I kind of would have liked to see it against the Cubs just because he knows Wrigley better than anyone else. But he gets the start yesterday. That ended up being huge for the Mets. And then you saw other guys like Jonathan Villar, who I thought had a very good game. Not so much with the bat, but defending. Yeah, he's been kind of back and forth with he's either going to contribute playing with the bat or now with the glove. But let's get into this game because the Mets win this one. And guys that stood out for sure were Pete Alonso, man. Pete, talk about the patience this entire series. He's not chasing down and away like no tomorrow. Maybe he's getting caught a little bit with the high fastball still, but guy 1 for 2 on the day because he drew 2 walks, had 2 runs, and also had a RBI from his home run. That was fantastic. JD Davis, man, we just did a video here on JD a couple days ago, and now you look at what has happened with him. The defense wasn't nearly as much of an issue this series. What was a positive was his bat, something that he's been consistent with starting the year, batting over 400 to start the year. JD had a monster game, 3 for 4, 2 runs, 2 RBIs, including, I believe he had a home run yesterday too. That was fantastic. And James Mccann. I love Mccann. He's a guy that's been fantastic, drilling guys out still, and was 1 for 3 on the day with an RBI. And Taijuan Walker, man. Walker, he did get a little lucky. This was a game where it felt very lackluster, if you ask me, from the national side things. The Mets were by far the worst team defensively between the two in game 2. Game 3, it was complete reverse roles or just base running as well. You see to start things off, Victor Robles gets a double and he goes for the triple that the Mets have already gone out at least once this year against the Phillies. I remember that game. But then you see it happening where Conforto gets a beautiful throw to the cutoff man. I believe it was VR. And then he gets out Robles there on third. So that was great. So Walker, in a nutshell, pitched 7 scoreless innings, gave up a couple walks, and this is something that we're going to need to pay attention to with Taijuan throughout the year. He did not have a great performance in Wrigley. The walk rate was up. Walks are kind of consistent with them. He had a high walk rate in the short 2020 season, even with him having a dominant ERA. So that is something that he will continue to get better at, hopefully. But he had 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, only gave up 3 hits, and what was a very serviceable performance by what could very well be our 5th starter come once Cookie and Thor are healthy and really in a routine with this rotation. But Miguel Castro, Edwin Diaz, innings apiece. Diaz gets the save. They both get shutout innings for them. No runs given up. Those are the guys that we need to be money all throughout the year. Castro, I had as my pick going into this season that he very well could be the most dominant reliever for the Mets, and so far so good. He's been fantastic. And Diaz, man, continuing to get it. His 2nd save on the year now. And now when you look at him, he currently has a low, just over 2 ERA in 8 appearances and has 9 strikeouts. The only runs he gave up was in that terrible game where Degrom ended up getting the loss and against the Marlins, and he gave up 2 runs in that, and you were there for that game. So outside of that, things have been good for Diaz. And I want to answer some questions quick before I ask Richie for your thoughts on this game. But overall, it wasn't the most perfect series by any stretch of the imagination. Guys still need to heat up, including Francisco Lindor. He has still been cold with the bat, and that definitely needs to be noted, of course. But Almora had that amazing catch. Jack Palmero says that Almora catch was quite sexy, I know. And the funny thing about that catch, too, guys, if you don't know, is one of his best friends in the entire MLB is Kyle Schwarber, and he is that's exactly who he robbed. He was speaking glowingly about it, how you can almost tell he felt bad about it. They were gaming late last night before the game. They're really good buddies because they would be in the outfield together back when Schwarber was with the Cubs too. But it was kind of funny to see that happen. Almora takes this round between the two friends. Sickest catch from a Met since Endy. Ooh, that's a bold take, Timothy. I don't know. I don't know if I can back that up just because Juan has had some really nice diving catches too. It felt very Lagares-esque in my thought.
I got Lagares vibes. I'm a big
Yeah.
Lagares fan. He was like my favorite player in the Mets for a long time.
Yeah. So what is your stance on this game, and really what stood out to you? What did you like about Almora? You think that was a good first outing that we actually saw out of him for a starting role? Do you think that maybe if he can just pick things up a little bit with the bat, that he very well could be the first pick between him and Kevin Pillar, should Pillar continue to struggle? Again, they'll go back and forth throughout the year, but what's your initial stance on this game and the series win as a whole?
Yeah, man, I'm all Almora over Pillar train so far. We saw a lot of Kevin Pillar this year. This first start for Almora was a gem. At the plate, I don't think he had any hits, but what we saw in center field was spectacular, and we know what we're getting from Almora. Kevin Pillar, he's a defensive-minded guy, but 5 years ago. And he's supposed to be more offensive minded, and he's batting under 100. So let's give Almora every single opportunity whenever we're versing a left-handed pitcher. I'm all for it. Almora looked like a beast in center field. I'm just so happy that we bounced back after Saturday's nightmare of a game defensively, and we had a brilliant performance defensively on Sunday, whether it's Francisco Lindor robbing a base hit at short, whether it's ending the game with a Pete Alonso diving stop, whether it's that relay to get Robles out at third, whether it's Almora. There were so many beautiful plays defensively that made us realize, like, okay, maybe we're not as bad as we think defensively. We just need to get more of a rhythm. We need to get more communication. We need more, repetition out there. We need the players to play together. And when we empty the bench and have a defensive-minded lineup, this is what happens. So that's a really good sign. I'm also really high on Jonathan VR. I think he was a very good pick. One of my good friends, Joe, he was over. We were watching the game Friday night, and he's a diehard Yankees fan. And he saw Jonathan VR come to the plate. He's like, what? The Mets got VR? I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, he's a beast. Like, he remembered him going up against him when he was on the Orioles. He's like, I hate VR. Like, I hated him. He always ruined us against the Yankees. And that made me realize, like, oh, okay. Yankees fans know about VR, and they think he's a beast. So that made me really get more confident that this guy is a stud. And he's been a stud. I think defensively he's doing a job. He's probably one of the best clutch hitters on the Mets so far. And I am totally okay with every time I see him in the lineup, I'm down. Unfortunately, we're not seeing anything from Jeff McNeil yet. So I think VR is going to get the start over McNeil until he gets into rhythm. But I'm not worried about McNeil at the plate. But hey, we got two shutout victories for the first time in a series since 2018, I believe. And the vibes were good. We won this series. I told you this earlier on before we went live, Wardy. And for those guys that watched SNY broadcast, you guys heard this as well. But this is a very important stat. The last 6 years, the team that won the NL East is the team that had the best record in a division. So these division opponents are really critical. And we know that. Every single division opponent we want to win, and it's very important. We know that. But historically, in the past 6 years, the team that has the best record in a division wins the division. And right now, we're 7-4 against the NL East. So we're on a good start. We're in first place. We have played the least amount of games out of anybody in the MLB. The offense is going to start clicking. Pete Alonso, I want to talk about him real quick.
Okay, let's transition that then into what players stood out this series. Okay, so let's start with Pete. Shall we? Go ahead.
Pete Alonso, I don't know how many times he struck out this year, but it's not a lot. I remember last year to start the season, it was concerning how many times he was striking out. And yes, he struck out a couple times, but that's Pete's, that's what people think of Pete Alonso when he struggles. When he chases, he strikes out too much. It's either a home run or he strikes out. But this year, he had 2 walks yesterday. He's not chasing. He's patient at the plate. He's driving the ball. He's getting base hits. His average is up to 270 plus. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but it's somewhere around those lines. 5 home runs. And guys, the leading player with the most home runs, it's 7. And that's tied, with Almora, Shohei Ohtani somehow. A lot of players have 7 home runs. Pete Alonso's played 7 fewer games than these guys, and he has 2 less home runs than the leading, so he's on pace for another 45-plus home run season. I think Pete Alonso is, and he's also really looking good defensively at first base so far. Pistol Pete, that celebration after Big Me Pete, I love that he blew out the pistol because he's Pistol Pete, and he's looking good defensively. We know that he has the ambitious mentality that he wants to win a Gold Glove, and he needs to have that goal in order to get that. And I'm seeing a lot of great traits from him defensively at first, and I'm really impressed so far from him at the plate in terms of being patient, not chasing, letting the pitch come to him, driving the ball, hitting the nukes. I'm all on the Pete Alonso hype train. He's winning MVP this year. Big Me Pete, we're coming for you.
Yeah. No, Pete is currently on pace for, and I quote, a right around 48 home runs on the season and 114 RBIs. If you ask me, that's pretty damn good. And you're looking at probably a 250 plus average, which is all I would hope for. 250 plus, and I'm more than satisfied. And this is a guy that can probably hit even higher than that. We'll see just how big his slumps are and how big his hot streaks are throughout the year. But Pete is a man on a mission. He looks more composed than he ever has. Even going back to his rookie year, he's not chasing nearly as much. To start a season, he is not chasing pitches nearly as much as he was in his rookie and his sophomore year, which was a sophomore slump in 2020. But let's take a look at not just Pete, but a little bit further on him, because this series, what stood out to me the most about him was he was the best overall Mets hitter if you look at his numbers in this series. He was 4 for 8 because he drew 3 walks in the entire series. Fantastic, doing his best Brandon Nemo impression. And he had 1 home run and an RBI in the process. But he's a guy that when he is hot, I think he's really going to help rally around the remainder of this club, because him, along with Francisco Lindor and a couple others to name a few, like, they're the most vocal guys in that locker room, in the dugout, on the field, and they're just so energetic. So Pete is a confident guy. But when he is not rolling, you can tell that he lacks, kind of making the comments and stuff, because he really is, in a lot of sense, very similar to Jeff McNeil, just not as emotional, where McNeil really lets his slumps get to him, where Pete, once he breaks out of them, he's like all smiles right away. He's rolling to help back around everyone. So I think Pete is doing fantastic things, and he does have the potential. Do I think he's going to win a Gold Glove this year? I'll be surprised, but he has definitely looked far better than what people make him out to be at first base. I think he is just as competent of a first baseman as you can get in the MLB today, and I hope that he continues to prove his doubters wrong throughout the season. So far, so good. And he's using his size. Remember, Pete's like 6'4". He's got a lot of range there on first, and he's using it to his advantage. So that's great to see. But you obviously have to talk about a little bit further, Jacob Degrom. He cannot be not talked about as one of the best players in the series. He was the best player in the series. What is Jake going to do Wednesday against the Red Sox? That's a good question that I don't currently have an answer to, but I do think that Jake is going to continue to be dominant all throughout the season. So keep an eye on Jake. I apologize if you hear my dog barking too. Someone just rang the doorbell. But still, I think Degrom is going to continue to be Degrominant and have simply Degrominant performances for the remainder of the year. And who knows, maybe be consistent with the bat. Then I have a couple more guys. There's 3 more. I have 5 picks that really stood out to me. And then we'll also talk about the negatives players from the series and who we hope bounces up or really gets out of the slump that they're currently in. Brandon Nemo, man. Again, Nemo coming right off of a couple games not starting. He did have that 1 pinch hit in the Cubs series in the final 2 games, but he didn't get anything out of that because he was cold off the bench. Nemo, 3 for 10 on the series. Did not have any hits in the 2 games outside of the first game with Degrom pitching, but he has 2 runs, a home run, 4 RBIs, and 2 walks. In my mind, that's serviceable, and that out of what everyone that I saw was one of the better ones. Robert Gsellman needs another shout out here again. I don't think it can be overlooked how good of an outing Robert Gsellman did. The only reason why no one's talking about it is because the Mets got steamrolled that game. That's the only reason. So give kudos to Robert Gsellman. I hope he keeps it up. This bullpen needs the help because they don't have the depth as much as we would have hoped at this point in time. So Gsellman needs to figure out what the strike zone is. I agree, Jack, but at the same time, he had 3 serviceable innings there. As long as he can be serviceable when they need him to, in games like that, more than anything, where you need a guy to give you 2-3 innings, that is what we should expect from Gsellman. So if he can do that, great. I much prefer that than for him to be in really close, tight games. You know what I mean? That's what we have other guys for. But then you also get on to one other guy I just want to mention, and that is JD Davis. Again, JD, 4 for 11 on the series, 3 runs, 2 RBIs, a home run in the series. He has not skipped a beat with his bat, and the defense wasn't nearly as abysmal at times as it was in the Cubs series. So hopefully, as things start to warm up now, as he gets a little bit more comfortable, that we can stop talking about JD Davis and his future with the Mets. I truly hope that's the case, because I really love JD. Don't get me wrong. Every time I talk about him, it is not for his bat. It's definitely just his defense and how it could cost Mets games. If he continues to not let errors happen. I know it's only 1 series since he let one, but give a couple series. Let's get a couple months in. Hopefully that he's having little to no problems at third. Then bam, we're really feeling good. So JD, keep up with the bat. Just focus on the defense some more, and good things should hopefully happen for you, my man. So is there any other player that you really want to pinpoint in this series that has stood out the most to you? Maybe a guy also that you would like to see step up as they get into their upcoming series against the Red Sox?
Yeah, I think Michael Conforto. He's hitting the ball really hard. He has 2 this close. He should have 3 home runs this season. We saw his first home run Saturday, and then we saw an opposite field double that was this close from going out of the park. And then we saw Wrigley he was this close from going out, and he's hitting the ball hard. I think this is where Conforto is going to start breaking out. He's steadying at that 5 hole. I feel like Conforto needs to continue that, and he's such an important part to this offense. And if Conforto can get cooking behind Pete Alonso, this offense is going to get better. And another player I want to see continue his brilliance is Pete Alonso, obviously, but I also want to see Francisco Lindor because he looks a little frustrated to me. I think he's inside of his own head. I saw the first time his emotions got the best of him where he fouled out, or it was a pop-up and he smashed his bat of frustration. And, you don't like to see that, but that tells you that he's really trying to get those hits. He's frustrated. He knows he's in a little funk, and I think he's going to break out of it. But the positive with Lindor is he's spectacular at shortstop defensively. It would be a nightmare if he was not doing good at short and at the plate, but I think it's just a matter of time. We've been saying this, I feel like, for 3 weeks straight, but Lindor's going to get his hits. Whenever he gets hot, he's going to be scorching hot, and I feel like he's going to go on a hitting streak. Maybe not this week, but in May, I feel like Lindor is going to start breaking out. And I really hope that Nemo can continue his hot streak leading off because he's a very pivotal part to this offense.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Conforto, give some respect where respect is due. Again, he has not looked good. Let's talk about his defense just for a minute, okay, with Conforto, because there is some points that need to be had, and it's something that I haven't touched on as much in the past, and people want things to be level-headed. When I talk about JD, people want me to also talk about other guys that have been griping defensively, and rightfully so. I think JD is kind of in a realm of his own just because of he is by far the guy on the biggest hot seat with what is his future going to be. And that's not me saying that. That is the Mets saying that, what they did all offseason long and trying to upgrade third base. So I'm simply relaying the message so it isn't a surprise should they do something. But Conforto's an interesting pick here because he did not have a strong season in 2020 from a defensive standpoint. He was below average. He made up for it in his bat, however, because he had a career high season. So normally when you make up for it in bat, kind of the same thing with dominant left. As long as you make up for it, it's okay, right? This season, he has not had a good start to his play in the corner outfield either. But he did have a great game this one against the Nationals, game the cutoff man. And as long as he continues to trend upward, good things are going to happen for Conforto. So I really think he's starting to break out now. He is unlucky, and that's kind of how I felt with Jeff McNeil for a while too, and I still do. But McNeil's in a massive slump right now. He's a guy I want to talk about as we get into the Red Sox series. But yeah, that's really all I have to say on the matter. I think Conforto's a guy that's destined to break out. Let's not put too much stock into the first under 20 games of the season, shall we? Let's see how he rolls for the remainder of the season, hoping that he can get that clutch bat, because one of the biggest gripes I always hear about Conforto, because you guys know how much I love Michael Conforto, and normally people have something to say in a negative light about him, is that he isn't clutch. He doesn't hit with guys on base. Okay. All right, we'll see how the remainder of the season goes along and if that truly holds true or not. Because I know he has not been as clutch as we would have liked him to be in the past, but he was very clutch in the shortened season. Let's see how he does in a bigger year. That's all I have to say about that. But I want to just answer some questions quick, guys, before we get into the series preview now against the Red Sox, because, man, I'm really excited for this one. I don't know about you. We only play the Sox 2 times a year, 2 series. So I'm trying to get the most out of it and how short and precious it's going to be. I hope it's a good one, man. But let's get in here. I just want to read some more comments. Let's just see. Let's see. Conforto's been unlucky. I agree, Tim. I do. Michael isn't below average in the field. Average at worst. No, Matthew, from a numbers perspective, in 2020, he was right around average to below average. This year, he has not looked that great in right field either. I know about the error. Trust me. I'm just saying that he isn't a Gold Glover in right field. We know that. So I'm just addressing what has actually been prominent and is something that doesn't get talked about as much. His arm has been off a little bit as well. That's fair, David. Again, I don't think it's anything detrimental to the lack of Mets success. What you're getting with him is his bat, 1,000%. Weather needs to get better. I agree too, Dom. But now let's talk about this upcoming series against the Red Sox, because I love this. I don't know about you guys. I just love whenever we play the Sox, because it makes me think of a couple years ago when the whole chant in unison happened in Fenway when it said Yankees suck between the Mets and the Red Sox. They've kind of, in my mind, they've been like our best pals, or some of them in the MLB. There's good friends too, whether you're a Barstool fan or not. I know that Jared Carabas, or Krabas, however you pronounce his name, who's like the main face of baseball, arguably for Barstool, big Red Sox fan. He always speaks glowingly of the Mets, and kind of the same thing vice versa with KFC and Clem with their podcast for the Mets. So it's going to be fun to see how that battle goes between them. If you're into Barstool, if you're not, perfectly fine. I'm not judging anyone or anything like that. I just want to throw that out there. But this series is going to be big for the Mets, because when you look on paper, the Mets do once again have the pitching advantage. It's going to be Garrett Richards facing off against David Peterson. And that's going to be probably the most questionable game between the two when it comes to pitching. Garrett Richards is right around the same as Peterson to start the year when it comes to his actual ERA. They're over a 6 ERA equally between the two to start the season. And then when you get on to the second game and the final game of the series, it is Nick Pavetta. If you guys don't remember, Nick Pavetta used to be a Philadelphia Philly, kind of refound himself a little bit here with the Red Sox over the past year and a half. And he has a right over a 3 ERA on the season facing off against the best pitcher in baseball, Jacob Degrom, who has a 0.3 or so ERA on the season. So what's your initial stance on this series, Richie? And what guys are you think are going to stand out here? Because again, I'm excited for it. I'll get into what players we need to keep an eye out, obviously from the Red Sox perspective, but just in a nutshell, what are you looking forward most about this one?
Yeah, man, I think the Red Sox are an interesting story. Nobody expected them to be in first place right now. It's interesting because as a New York sports fan, I hate the Patriots as a Jets fan. I hate the Celtics as a Knicks fan, but I don't mind the Red Sox as a Mets fan because I don't know. I hate the Yankees and I kind of like that rivalry. And my uncle, he is a huge, it's weird, guys. I don't understand it, but he's a huge Mets and Red Sox fan. And growing up with him, he always made me watch Red Sox games with him. So I have a little, thing with the Red Sox, mainly because I hate the Yankees and I want the Red Sox to win. But obviously, this is going to be a very interesting series because it's a 2-game one. We don't get to see them often, and it's only 2 games. So what we're looking at for is, can this offense officially break out? We had some, Friday with Degrom on the mound, our offense looked good. Then Saturday, an egg. And then Sunday, our offense looked decent with 4 runs. So can we finally break out? Because this offense needs to get into a rhythm. And unfortunately, we have an off day today and then we have an off day after. So we're not going to get live action for like 6 games in a row like we should. But we're coming off 6 games in a row. So maybe this offense is getting more in rhythm. And I just feel like this is the game. This is the series, rather, where we need to stop relying on our pitching and just score some damn runs. Like, I know that the Red Sox have been good pitching-wise, but let's score 5+ runs in each game. Is that so much to ask for? Like, I don't want to sound like, greedy or anything, but let's score 5 runs in each game, at least, right? Is that too much to ask for?
I mean, apparently it is with this Mets team to start the year, honestly. They've been so wishy-washy with their offense. But again, it is another series that on paper the Mets should be able to jump on, because let's take a look at this first pitching matchup, right? And before I do, I just want to thank everyone so much for chiming into the stream. This has been a great one. I don't know. I just feel really good about this week. I don't know. I think maybe because the weather's starting to clear up a bit, that seasonal depression is starting to go away. Let's have some positive, warm Mets baseball and actually get them in a rhythm now, shall we? So Mets baseball fans, I appreciate you chiming in, guys, as always. I see some good comments in here too. So guys, smash that like and subscribe button. But Garrett Richards is a guy that the Red Sox added in the offseason. And the Red Sox are a very interesting team. So let's just talk about this a little bit further. The Red Sox are a team where they got rid of Mookie Betts, as we know. They lost that trade, no doubt. Alex Verdugo is a very talented young player, though, that they have in the outfield. Very serviceable, very versatile, too, with the bat. I remember him when he was in his rookie year with the Dodgers, beating up on the Mets already a couple years ago. But Verdugo is really solid, but they lost that trade big time when not just giving up Mookie Betts, who then they won the World Series right away, but also Gratterall, the reliever, who really looks like he's a stud, absolutely. But again, to Garrett Richards, they signed him in the offseason. 32-year-old right-hander is currently 0-2 on the season in 4 appearances, has a 6.48 ERA, has 12 strikeouts, and a just under 2 whip on the season thus far. Nothing spectacular when it comes to Garrett Richards, and this is not a jinx or anything like that. I just want to break down, exactly what we're seeing with the guy, because when you look at his numbers, there really isn't too much going on there, and he's a crucial part of their rotation currently. And when you get on to the Mets side of things with David Peterson, if you guys don't remember, who did David Peterson have his first ever MLB outing against? Oh, yeah, it was the Boston Red Sox in Fenway. So we'll see. Maybe that'll kind of give a little bit of fire under him, too, knowing that he's seen this team before. They've seen him. But I like this matchup for the Mets. I really, really like to see if they can jump on Richards early. He's a guy that they absolutely should the offense be clicking. But then when you get on to the second game, Jacob Degrom against Nick Pavetta, that one's actually pretty interesting, because if you guys don't know Nick Pavetta, he's a guy that has kind of refound his career a little bit. I'm most known for him being with the Philadelphia Phillies, but this season he has a 3.48 ERA. He's 2-0 on the year in 4 appearances, 18 Ks and 1.35 whip. And if you look at his numbers here, because I've seen Pavetta even when he was in the minors before in AAA, I'm trying to get this to update here, but for whatever reason, the MLB app is being stupid. Let's see here. Can we get it? There we go. Okay. Actually, hold on one sec. I'm just trying to get I want to see his numbers from last season because for whatever reason, it's deciding not to pull up. Because I know we had a decent season with the Red Sox last year. That's weird. Okay. Hold on. Okay, I don't know why. He has a 5.3 ERA on the season regardless, though. But Pavetta is a guy that should be interesting. He does have plenty of familiarity against the Mets, too, so take that into account during his time with the Phillies. 28 years of age already, so he is a seasoned vet in the league now. Hasn't had too much experience, but has had a decent amount. And I do want to pull up a jersey in a second, too, because it's Red Sox and Mets we're talking about. It's against Jacob Degrom. So Jake is going to have an opportunity to really jump on the Red Sox here. It's not like the Red Sox see Jake very often, too. And with Degrom and already Cy Young form early in the season, I like the chances for the Mets. I really do. But I want to point out a couple guys that we need to make sure that we're keeping an eye on in this series from a batter's perspective. It starts off with, yes, a JD Martinez. You guys know the story with JD by now. He has been one of, if not the best hitter for the Red Sox the past couple of years. Had it down 2020, but this guy can definitely hit those home runs still. Known for his time with the Tigers, of course, but JD Martinez, man, 7 home runs, 21 RBIs on the season already, has over a 1,000 OPS and a 370 average. He is the equivalent to Pete Alonso for us, but he has more of a track record because he's been in the league longer. Xander Bogaerts, who a lot of people always love to debate who is the better shortstop between the two. There are a lot of people that believe Xander Bogaerts is the better between him and Lindor. He's had by far the better start of the season. I will say that. Bogaerts is currently batting .366, 3 home runs, 12 RBIs at just under 1,000 OPS to start the year. And then Alex Verdugo, another guy that we need to be keeping an eye out for sure. He's only 24 years of age, center fielder, batting .325 on the year. 3 home runs, 13 RBIs, and at just over 900 OPS. Those guys for sure. Rafael Devers is fairly inconsistent, has been up and down in his early career, but definitely has a big bat, big swing to the 24-year-old third baseman. He has right around 6 home runs, 18 RBIs on the year with a 900 OPS. Not the most stellar glove for sure. He's actually one of the bottom feeders currently when it comes to being a defensively sound third baseman, but he normally tries to make up for it with his bat. And then you have some others, Kike Hernandez, Marwin Gonzalez. Those guys haven't had stellar starts, but those are 2 guys the Mets did show interest in to really be great utility guys for them. So they're both with the Red Sox. It's going to be an interesting series here, but I do like the Mets' chances of hopefully getting at least one of the two. If they can win the series, great. But it does bring some more intensity, if you ask me, because it is a 2-game series. It's not one of those things where you have that rubber match, should it go 1-1. Like, that's it. So just one loss kind of hurts a little bit more because you already didn't win the series. So, Richie, going into this series, what guys do you hope to either step up the most that are currently in a slump, or do you expect to continue to be on a roll and it can either be a reliever or it can be a hitter and or both? Give me your initial thoughts on who do you think should definitely be standing out in the series against the two?
Yeah, and really quick before I get into that, we got some MLB news. The Colorado Rockies GM has stepped down, which is pretty interesting.
There you go. That's actually some significant news.
Yeah, he resigned. So that's what happens when you have a terrible organization. Or didn't they just blow out the someone on our division? The Phillies.
I think that they played the Phillies, and Trevor Story had a big knock against them.
I saw they beat, maybe it was the Nationals 12-2 recently. I don't know. I saw the score. I was like, wow. Oh, that's crazy. But
the Rockies, I believe it was it just their GM or was it their owner that said during the offseason just made the worst remarks that they had to they said it on air and they ended up having to cut it. It was an absolute joke. He was basically saying how incompetent they are and how, there's deserving of not having any excitement, right? He doesn't even know why he's in the position he is. Everything is so awry with the Rockies organization right now, and it's been for a bit. This was the first. They were the only team in the MLB this past offseason to not spend $1 on a major league contract. $1.
Man. So the Rockies, their GM stepped down and they clobbered the Phillies last night. So interesting
awesome.
timing. But let's get into the Red Sox preview, right? So you say, who do I think is going to continue their hot streak and who do I think is going to get out of their slump? Since we have a day off, I think that our bullpen's well rested. I want to see Miguel Castro continue his brilliance out of the pen. I'm also curious to see what Trevor May is going to do because we haven't seen him out of the pen in quite some time. And Edwin Diaz, I think that he's been having a very interesting season so far with those trumpets coming out there and got all Citi Field all riled up. So absolutely. The bullpen is definitely the biggest X factor for the season throughout the rest of the year. That's what I've always been saying. So those three guys I'm keeping an eye on. And when it comes to at the plate, we've talked about him all stream long. But Pete Alonso, I want to see him have a very good campaign. Let's see him for this 2 games against the Sox go off. Let's see at least 3 hits between the 2 games, getting on base. And I just want to see another level of Pete, because I feel like that rookie campaign, it's hard to top that, which is crazy because it's his rookie season. But I really want to see that version of Pete all throughout the rest of the way. And a player I want to see break out, I think it's going to be, or at least I hope, is Jeff McNeil. He's way too good of a hitter to just continue this slump, man. Nothing's going his way. When he hits the ball hard, it's right to the shortstop, right to right field, and it's unfortunate. But Jeff McNeil is destined to break out. And I also want to see J.D. Davis take some strides at third, because we know what he can do at the plate. But let's see him make some defensive plays, because it really worries me. Because I'm a very defensive-minded guy when it comes to baseball. I think that's what makes baseball such a great sport. And unfortunately, we do not have the greatest defense, even though yesterday it was spectacular. But let's build off of yesterday's defensive performance. I want to see the defense have a very good series against the Sox. I want to see Pete continue his dominance. I want the bullpen to do their thing. And we'll see what Peterson can do, because we don't know which Peterson we're going to get. It's either he's dominant or he's rattled. So it's going to be a very interesting series against the Sox, because this is a very good team in Boston. We're home at Citi Field. Let's take advantage. Let's at least split the series 1-1, because getting swept would be a nightmare.
Yeah, we definitely need to make sure we're not underestimating the Red Sox, just like any other opponent. I feel like I did that a little bit in previous series, just because when you look at the pitching matchups, it's like, all right, on paper, this looks good. Let's get it. But the offense has just not been there enough. But the Red Sox are 14-9 in the season. Let's not forget that they had a 9-game winning streak. Have been a little inconsistent since then. Just came off a series win against the Seattle Mariners, I believe. So things have definitely been trending upward for the Sox, a little bit better than expected, I would say, because when you look at them, how they currently stack up, I believe I had the Red Sox finishing 4th in the division, above only the Orioles this year. So they have a tall task, but they have a lot of young, interesting players as well. Not just between the bullpen, but also their young hitters. So Dahlbeck is a guy that comes to mind, even though he hasn't had much of an impact yet. He had a dominant spring. So they definitely have a lot of good young players there. And we also need to make sure that we're wary of just how good their offense is, okay? They currently, as long as my memory is correct here as well, they do have the best team average currently in all the MLB thus far to start the season. So they have been hitting. They've been hitting plenty. And they're a team that could very well jump on David Peterson early. They do have the upside here against Peterson, knowing that they have faced him already, because let's be real, the Mets and the Red Sox do not face each other all that often. So they did see him throughout his first outing. They do have some type of familiarity there with the vets who have been there for more than a season in Boston. So keep an eye on that for sure. I think, honestly, it's pretty obvious that that game is going to definitely be the bigger one between the two, because Jake, you have that security, at least you believe you should, and for good reason, versus the other way around. So keep an eye on that game tomorrow on Tuesday, and I will be live streaming that as well, guys. If you don't know, I'll be live for both games. I'll be live for that entire series. I'll be starting probably a half hour at least before to give my pregame thoughts and really break down further things that we should know about before the game and then beyond. So stay tuned for that, guys. Really just hope you guys are ready for the series, because I think it's going to be great. I really do. And in a 2-game set, you want to take advantage of that and kind of solidify yourself. And it's definitely a good thing to try to roll into before you go on your away trip then to Philly. So the Mets are not going to have anything come easier anytime soon. So I really, really do hope they execute here. But Jeff McNeil is a guy I would like to talk about here for a minute, Richie, because you're 100% right. I said this plenty, guys, and you probably know it by now. But Mcneill struggled last year. The first 2+ weeks in the season, same exact thing that we're seeing this year. Was pulling the ball too much, getting hard contact, but it wasn't enough, or even soft grounders the first. He was really not looking hot. Then he busted the door open for the remainder of the year and got himself a 300 average at least. Was looking very strong. This year, he has not skipped a beat since the spring has started. And that is my only concern with Mcneill early is he is a guy that you can tell, at least from the eye test, and I don't know him personally, guys, so I apologize if I'm saying something that isn't truly factual, but you can tell that he's a very emotional player if it wasn't obvious enough from the amount of times he gives his F-bombs sprinting down to first trying to leg out a grounder or something along those lines. He's very emotional. He feeds off that just like most players do in the MLB, but when a lot of things are going wrong for him, and when you have him now in a lineup that's been fluctuating, he's already been benched a couple times just to get a day off because he has not had the best start to the season, put it lightly. Has, I believe, a 186 average on the year, only 1 home run, a sub-600 OPS. Mcneill needs to get going because if this Mets team does want to have as good of a season as we hope they will, they don't just need the Francisco Lindors to get going, but they need Jeff McNeil. Jeff McNeil is a place setter. He's a guy that, yes, you can get power out of. You can get upwards of 20 bombs, but you're really looking for just that consistent batting. He's a guy that you should hope for at least getting 1 or 2 hits a night, and we have not seen anything nearly as prevalent as we've seen in his past couple of years with the Mets so far to start this season. So McNeil is a guy I truly hope steps out the most this series. I would love to see Lindor get hot with the bat, but I'm honestly even more concerned with McNeil right now than I am Lindor. I think Lindor is going to be fine. He's in a similar boat where in 2019, yeah, he had his struggles. A lot of factors went into that, especially with his uncertainty with Cleveland Indians going forward. So I do think Lindor will be due. We do need to see it sooner than later because he has not been nearly as strong of a hitter since the 2019 season. So all things considered, I love the Mets' chances in this series. And I think it's going to be an entertaining one. I really hope this isn't a snooze fest. I really would love to see both teams respectively break out the bats a little bit and hopefully the Mets prevail in the end. But I want to read some more questions here, guys, before we expand further here on this series preview. So again, to my roughly 100 Mets fans, thanks so much for chiming in, guys. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to my man Richie at Mets Media. He's doing a lot of great post-game breakdowns and a lot of things. We'll be going live next on his channel, probably at the end of the week for recapping this series and what's ahead for them and so much more. So make sure to check him out. Help him get to 1,000 subscribers and help us get to 100 likes here in this stream. But Dean says, what is your opinion on Rojas' performance in the Cubs series? They were back-to-back games, down 2-run situations with a fully rested pen, which Rojas put in Gesellman. 2-out and not his fault. But yeah, Dean, I'll expand on that in a second. That is a good question. I will just say, though, it is a little past already just because the Cubs series, we've already went through another one. I think that would have been a great comment prior to the National series, but I'll touch on that 1 second for sure. I saw that. Yes, I actually talked to the Mets organization, guys. If you don't know, every single month, the Mets plan to expand capacity for the most part, because when I was buying tickets, I was credited, like a lot of you guys were, for anyone going to games this year. Here's just kind of a FYI, what you should know about. If you buy tickets a month ahead prior to, a month previous that you're buying them for games that are going to happen, you very well will get credited more than likely if you're buying them through the Mets site or even through SeatGeek or wherever it's going to be, because capacity is probably going to grow every month. And now we see reports that the Yankees and the Mets could be going upwards of 33% already next month. We very well could see the Mets with upwards of 65, 70% or higher by the end of the season. So keep that in mind when you're buying tickets, guys. Whenever they expand capacity, they're probably going to credit your tickets if you already bought them. So just keep that in mind. It's a little frustrating because it does kind of prohibit how early you want to buy tickets normally for games, but just kind of an FYI to everyone out there that does plan on going to games this year. Capacity will inevitably change as each month goes by for the Mets at Citi Field and probably other teams too. But I want to talk about that question that we got here regarding Rojas. Rojas is a very controversial manager. I think you would agree, Richie. He's a guy that a lot of games I feel perfectly fine with him. Don't think that there's anything outlandish. Some games I really felt like, wow, that was a little wacky. I really don't know why he either went about this lineup or why he went about this bullpen decision. And I think the bullpen is universally agreed upon for us Mets fans as to what is the biggest gripe with him, right? Going back to that Cubs series, a lot of things went wrong. You could call him out for Gesellman there. You honestly could, but it's one of those scenarios where it's still very early in the year. I haven't disliked Rojas nearly as much as I have thoroughly enjoyed him. I think I've just been more bothered with the team as a whole from an offensive side of things than I have been with, say, bullpen decision making. I think the pen has been fine, and I think it's easy for us to overlook it when it has been fine. Normally, when we talk about the bullpen, it's in a negative light, so I would like things to be more even-killed, more 50-50, like Gesellman, again, is outing against the Nationals. Brilliant type of situational pitching there to have him 3 innings and actually roll in a game where the Mets were probably not going to come back. So I like that a lot. But Matthew says here, let's talk about Miguel Castro. So Richie, why don't you run away with it here for a minute regarding Miguel Castro? Because I think he's definitely a guy that needs to continue to get credit where credit is due.
Yeah, man, you were all over Miguel Castro. You called it before the season began that he's going to be the hidden gem within our bullpen. And I got MLB The Show 21, and his overall is like a 63 or something like that. So we know that he's disrespected all around the league, and his velocity, his movement, his overall energy on the mound is very well. I mean, everything that he brings to the table coming out of the pen, I'm confident. There's a lot of times when somebody comes out of the, say Walker pitches like yesterday, 7 innings, no runs. And I'm worried because we're up by, say, hypothetically, we're up by 2 runs, and then the bullpen comes in, and then I'm worried. I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. But when Miguel Castro comes out there, I'm confident. I'm very even keeled. I'm comfortable. I'm calm. when Familia's on the mound, it's a little different story. So Miguel Castro is giving me that little security blanket feel. I have all the confidence in him to put up zeros out there. And his velocity, his movement, like I said, his location has been good. Even if he gets men on base, he looks like that he's going to get the job done. I'm pretty sure yesterday he had a lot of men on base, but he ended up striking 3 guys in a row. Not in a row, but he struck out 3 of the guys that he got 3 outs, and he gave up no runs. So Miguel Castro has been a gem out of the pen. I feel like with him and Lugo coming back, and I feel like Trevor May, he's going to get better throughout the season. Edwin Diaz looking like he's making strides. This bullpen has a really good chance to be good throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah. I agree with you. Castro, again, what has really taken him to that next step in my mind is one, this is constant repetition, but it still needs to be said. He's a guy that can hit 100 plus on his fastball at 6'7", taking advantage of his size. He has the nasty breaking stuff as well. He has the slider with command, but his changeup has been a massive X factor this year. His changeup is something that he has struggled with more in years past, but he's gotten better command on it this year. And that's big. Normally for pitchers, whether you're a relief pitcher or if you're a starter when you're going into the league, the last thing that people tend to focus on is their changeup. So if you have that ahead of time, great. But if you develop a nasty one throughout your career, that's always positive. Castro is right in the prime of his career right now. And he very well could go down as one of the sneakier, better pickups that Brodie Van Wagenen actually made during his tenure as GM. So again, as terrible as Brodie was at times, he did make some decent sneaky moves between bringing in JD Davis and also Miguel Castro. That was another solid one, just to name a few. So give credit where credit is due there. Absolutely. I want to answer this quick because I see some different comments. My man, let's see here. Blacklist Outdoors made an interesting comment about James McCann that, I want to touch on James McCann because McCann, he isn't a guy that should be all that impressive in the sense of doing lights out stuff every single night. But when you're talking about the pass balls for James McCann, I can agree that almost none of them have been his fault. A lot of them have been wild pitches. McCann has been excellent in my mind with his framing, has been far above average at times. He showed it in the short 2020 season. He's showing it more. Talk about a polar difference. James McCann, going into his first year with the White Sox, was one of, if not the worst framer in all baseball. Last year, he was top 10. It's crazy how much of a difference a year or so can make with your development and just doing fine tweaks and doing better training. That has been James McCann. McCann is a guy that you're not going to get a 300 average out of. If you get 250, 265, even 270, that's great. Kind of like Pete Alonso-esque, but he's not going to hit for the power as much. McCann is a guy that's going to be just around a little bit of an average to above average hitter for the Mets. But that's all you want from him. He's not going to be crazy. He's going to be what exactly you're looking for. Can be clutch. He has been clutch for the Mets early this season. He has actually been one of the better clutch hitters for the Mets and situational hitting for them. Framing has been solid. The arm is a huge X factor, though. His defense is really most important to me. And to see a guy that is actually competent and can draw out guys at second and has done more than once already this season is very much impressive in my mind. And I think you can attest to that, Richie, too. He's just a guy that, when you think of Wilson Ramos, Travis d'Arnaud, even going back farther, like even Paulo Duca to an extent, there are not many catchers that cross my mind that have had the kind of arm that James McCann has with the accuracy. And for people thinking that, that isn't much of a big factor, think about how bad the Mets have been for the past 5-10 years with guys on first. Noah Syndergaard went with this huge narrative of being by far the worst pitcher in MLB among starters to give up stolen bases. He just didn't know how to do it. So if your pitchers are going to struggle at times, other than Walker's pickoff that we saw yesterday, that was fantastic on Harrison on first. That was awesome. I didn't even get a chance to mention that. You need the catcher to really help you out there because that can dictate games between the Rockies series to end that series. Lindor game pumped up by that and some others. I really, really like James McCann. I do have a slight bias to him just because I've always been a big fan of his. But is there anything that you want to add on with James, Richie? Because I haven't had an issue with him whatsoever. The bat hasn't been great, but I don't think you're going to see his bat be stellar throughout the year either. I think he's going to be right around average to just above average with some pop in it.
Yeah, and a lot of people forget that he was an all-star with Chicago, and we signed him for the reason to be that defensive-minded catcher behind the plate, throw people out at second. His frame rate's up, like you mentioned, and we need a defensive-minded guy behind the plate. And we know that the defense for the Mets have not been good in the previous years. We're used to Wilson Ramos back there, who was not good defensively. He was supposed to be more of an offensive-minded catcher, and we saw some stretches where Ramos did well at the plate, but now it's flip-flopped. And I'd rather have a defensive-minded guy behind the plate. Like you said, whenever the ball gets by him, it feels like it's the pitcher's fault, not his fault. He's throwing people behind. He's really aggressive, and he's an aggressive defensive catcher. And with the starting pitchers that we have with Degrom and Stroman and Walker and Syndergaard coming back and Cookie, we need a guy like Mccann where we're comfortable behind the plate. Whenever Ramos was back there, I just did not have confidence in him framing or, getting in the dirt, making sure the ball does not get by him. And now Mccann, I feel like the contract we gave him, 4 years, $40 million, it was well worth it. I feel like his play at the plate has not been disappointing. It's everything I expected. He's getting his base hits. And the game that we were at, we saw his nuke of a home run, so we know that he is pop. And I just feel like he's a very good culture guy as well. He has good energy. He has a good relationship with Stroman, good relationship with all the starting pitchers and all the guys in the clubhouse. So he's an overall good guy you want in the clubhouse for culture, for everything you want in this New York Mets team, because we're building something in the right direction. And I feel like he's just a very high character guy. And that's what Steve Cohen is prioritizing here with the New York Mets. He's not only looking for talent, but he's looking for guys that are going to be, hard work, very high work ethic, high motor, a guy that's relentless with his craft. And we need a defensive-minded catcher, and he's doing everything we want. And I'm excited for James McCann's future for the New York Mets.
As do I. I 100% agree. And that is something that I've talked about plenty. But if you guys don't know, there's a lot of things that I thoroughly enjoy about James McCann, and awfully similar to Francisco Lindor. Take the player aspect away, just who they are as human beings. From everything that I've seen nothing short of amazing things of James McCann and who he is as a player, as a person, how he goes about his life, and how he truly felt that God sent him here to the Mets. He is a very Christian guy. And again, regardless of what religion you're backed from or anything like that, or if you're religious at all, I think it's still great to see someone who lives a very positive lifestyle and really believes that everything kind of happens for a reason. And he felt that he was truly destined to go to the New York Mets, which is a great thing. And because we can't just say that, you're just saying that because the Mets were the most appealing team. Well, they were in offseason, don't get me wrong, in a lot of ways, but McCann definitely could have gotten a big contract from some other very good competitive teams in the offseason, but he chose the Mets kind of right away. And he even said himself, there really wasn't much negotiation that had to be done because he knew exactly what they were bringing. And they really did a great selling job on him early. It was okay, I know the direction they're going in. Steve Cohen as owner, and it just feels right. This feels like a great time. And look how he's thriving now with guys too. And Jacob Degrom, just to name a few. Think what he's going to do in helping Carlos Carrasco in the NL for the first time in his career. Thor, these are guys where it's so refreshing now that the Mets will have a catcher that one can hit, like Wilson Ramos, but unlike Wilson Ramos, can actually defend and can defend to at least an average to above average level. So those are things I'll be keeping an eye out for the remainder of the year. But so far, so good in my mind for James McCann. But I want to touch on here another question, and then I want to expand a little bit further on the Red Sox series some more while answering questions. So, guys, if you have questions in particular about this Red Sox series and what you're looking out for or what you would like us to answer regarding the series in particular, please let us know in the comments and we'll answer them. But here from David, I didn't get a chance earlier, but I want to read this. Your thoughts on a lineup with lefties and righties being split at the top of the lineup. This is something that I've been actually focusing on quite a bit to start the year. It's a great point. I think Alonso is a 2-hitter, Lindor a 3, Davis a 4, Conforto 5, Smith 6, Mcneill 7th, Mccann 8. Okay, so Richie, let me hear your initial stance on this, and then I'll share mine because this is a good comment.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday we did not have Dom Smith in the lineup, and that's because we prioritize defense. We want Almora in center. So the big question is, if we want to prioritize defense and we want to put Almora out there, and obviously it's a better matchup for him at the plate, who's going to be playing left field? Is it Nemo or Dom Smith? And yesterday we saw Nemo because he's obviously the better defender. So it's unfortunate because the DH really hurts us. Having no DH hurts us in that aspect. But I like this. I think we can get very creative. We low-key have a very deep bench. I like Alonso as a 2-hitter against lefties. And J.D. Davis is proving to be a guy that can slide into that 4 spot against lefties as well. He's lights out at the plate. And Conforto is proving to be a good player at that 5 hole so far throughout the season against lefties. So the big question is Mcneill a guy that you want out there against lefties, or is Jonathan Villar the option? Because he's a switch hitter and he looks like more comfortable at the plate than Jeff McNeil. So, you can flip-flop it, and that's the luxury we have with this Mets lineup is you can get creative. You can plug this guy in or this guy in or that guy in. It's not like we only need a player starters. We have depth at the positions of need. So that's a good sign.
Oh, that is a great sign. I agree with you. I just want to read a comment here because Matthew says, oh, you know what? We get this DH in the next 2 games. Let's effing go. So wait, is that true? So is that a rule now with the NL this year because they don't have DH? Do they still get DH when an AL team comes into the NL for a series? Is that true, Matt? Because the Mets are home.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't.
We're
think
home,
so
so
either. But I hope that's true Can someone please expand on that? Because if so, then that blew over my head when they announced the plethora of stupid rules in the MLB this year. Seriously. So someone expand on that for me. Or Matt, or are you just saying that in the sense of you thought that they were in Boston? Because they're not. You're wrong. It isn't away games. Okay, he's wrong. He got my hopes up. Okay, it's fine. It's not a big deal. It'll throw them off anyways. But my stance on this matter is very similar. David, what I think he really means here, however, is that, like, the Mets have really been prioritizing breaking up lefties and righties, like 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 in the lineup to start the year. So in my mind, what have we seen with Pete? Pete looked good in the 2-hole yesterday. That's for sure. He actually probably looked the most comfortable he has at any part of the lineup all season. So if Pete's going to be a 2-holer, that's fine. A little surprising, but if he can do that, I'm not against it. My only gripe with Pete in the 2-hole is when he naturally gets in his slumps, because he's a guy that I don't necessarily trust to be as much of a place setter as he is normally a slugger, but can hopefully hit for average above 250. Now, when you get to Lindor at 3, I think the 3 spot makes perfect sense for Lindor personally. But my suggestion going into the season was having Nemo first, Mcneill second, because I think Mcneil should be more so in the top of the order. I know it can be lefty heavy more often than not because Lindor is batting more lefty than righty given his pitching matchups, but that felt like a good mix. We'll see that plenty. JD in the 4 spot is interesting. If he stays hot with the bat, I'm not against that. Conforto 5, I like Conforto in the 5-hole. I think that makes plenty of sense for him. He's had his most success there in his MLB career. Dom looked really good in the 3-hole a couple games ago, and then he didn't. So it's like, again, it's so hard to kind of give my full thoughts on how the lineup deserves to be shaken up because it's going to fluctuate all so much throughout the year. I know that there are teams, don't get me wrong, that stay pretty consistent with their lineups, but until the Mets really get into a rhythm, I don't like the chances of them staying consistent with the lineup. They'll stay consistent when something really starts to work, in my mind. It's like, if it ain't broke, why fix it? That in my mind is what's going to happen. So Mcneill, I honestly like Mcneill higher in the lineup, but if he starts to roll and hit in a 6 or a 7 spot, by all means, fine. Then keep him there because that gives you a lot more depth in the lineup versus having him in the top 3. Then you're getting into more swing and miss guys when you're from 5 down. And then Mccann at 8, that's perfectly fine. Mccann is one of the better hitters from a catching perspective. That'll be all the way at the bottom of the lineup. So I don't have an issue with him there. But good comment overall, though, I must say. Elijah says here, am I crazy to think that Degrom might be the franchise 2.0? There's a lot of debates that go on between Tom Seaver and Jacob Degrom, and it's one of those things where you don't want to compare the two, but you're kind of inevitably doing it just because they're 2 historically dominant pitchers for the New York Mets. And, all the credit in the world to the Mr. Franchise. Could Degrom finish his career at a higher level than Tom Seaver? He could, but he has a tall task because Tom has a lot more innings on him. So it's like currently Jacob Degrom is the best pitcher in Mets history with ERA. He has a 2.55 ERA career now. That's higher than Tom Seaver's. I believe Seaver has a 2.6 or something along those lines.
I thought it was 2.37, or is that wrong?
You maybe I'm wrong. I almost was certain it was 2.55 currently for Jake right now, though. But what I will say, though, is that Jake hasn't pitched nearly as many innings as Seaver has in his career. So we need to take that
a long way to go
as well. Like, not nearly as much. So it's one of those things where Jake has had a great career already, but he is not. Look, Jake has 1,000 less innings than Clayton Kershaw. Like, he doesn't have a lot of innings, which is a good thing for a guy now in his early 30s. And we're kind of so surprised by how he's flamethrowing and being so dominant. Now that in a lot of ways, a lot of pitchers will already be either at their peak and starting to dwindle down or already starting to dwindle down from their peak. Looks like Jake's still just getting started. So, we'll see. We'll see how he does by the time his career comes and wraps up, assuming he's with the New York Mets the entire time. But he's definitely on pace. He is definitely on pace. That is for certain. And you think Seavers is 2.57? It might be. It definitely might be. Let's see. I love Jurice this year. I thought he has looked solid. Baseball savant numbers are great. Yeah, Jurice has looked solid this year. Don't get me wrong. He's just, you got to be very strategic about how you utilize him. And I think you would agree with that, right, Richie? Like, Jurice is he's always a heart attack, even when he's not a heart attack. It's like, as long as he's on this Mets club, even if he's like kind of dominant, it's like you need to sit back and realize, all right, this is Jurice Familia. How long is this going to last? And what situations is he being put into?
Yeah, exactly. Every time I see Familia out there, I'm not confident, even though sometimes he dominates. You don't know what you're getting. And I'm not saying that Familia is a scrub. He's been playing decent this year, but we all have PTSD from the World Series, from whatever experience we have from Familia. Ever since that dominating season of him being our closer, breaking some records, he has not been the same. So we have that in the back of our mind, and we're not 100% confident in Familia. But hey, you got to give him credit where it's deserved. He looked good so far this year.
He has. It's funny, though, because the last outing that we saw him was in Philly, and he couldn't even get out of the inning. So it's not in Philly, against the Phillies. It's stuff like that, you know what I mean? Where it's like you come in, you get two guys on right away, and nothing comes out of it. Like, I think Jurice will be fine in certain situations. He's a guy that, like Gesellman, could thrive as long as Rojas is being fairly strategic about how is he going about him. Not putting in high leverage, high danger situations right away, or, more often than not. You kind of need to ease him in to kind of get him situated, and that's fine. Familia and Gesellman are guys that I would like to see pitch more often than not when the Mets are in a game where maybe it looks like a blowout, or maybe it's just a little bit expanded, and the likelihood of the Mets coming back isn't as strong. Because you need arms like that. You need serviceable arms to eat innings. Could Familia be more important than that? Absolutely, but so far, so good for him. I just naturally have my worries as a rational Mets fan who has seen all of Jurice Familia throughout his career. But I want to expand a little bit further, guys. If you have any other questions regarding the Red Sox series in particular and what you guys would like us to touch on, please let us know in the comments. Again, we're 20 likes away already from 100, so please smash that button. Whoever gets us to 100 likes, whoever is the 100th like, please let us know in the chat, and you get a big shout out, of course. And of course, make sure to subscribe to not just myself to help us get a 7K subs for consistent Mets content, but same thing goes to my man at Richie at Mets Media. Help him get now to 1K. So close. I can literally taste it for him. Help him get there. Really mean a lot, guys. But Richie, is there any other point that you would like to make off before we really just open things up into a Q&A about this Red Sox series and just in a whole where the Mets currently stand as a club? Like, it hasn't been the most ideal season to start off. I feel like adversity has definitely been a major factor into everything for them. I feel like everything has kind of not went their way, even when they have won games. So what is just your kind of initial recap on how the season has looked thus far versus what your initial expectations were?
Yeah, I like how we're dealing with adversity this early, because it's going to make the club, learn who they are. Because if you deal with the adversity now, it's going to only make them prepared for it down the line. Say we started the year off 15-5 or something like that, and then all of a sudden we hit a really cold spell in July, and they get rattled mentally. So it's a good time that they have to deal with adversity in terms of postponing games due to weather, COVID, whatever that is. We're not in a good rhythm right now in terms of playing every single day. Luckily, we had 6 games in a row, and that's going to help the offense. But I feel like this Mets team, we're above 500. We can't ask for more. We're the only team in the division that's above 500, so that's a big positive. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Pete Alonso. I feel like he is living up to the expectations that I put on him. Jacob Degrom, he's exceeding expectations, even though we did think that he's going to be brilliant this year. He's doing it in even a more dominant way. He's on pace to have his career year if he keeps it up, especially at the plate. The bullpen has been iffy to start off the year, but I feel like they're easing in right now. I feel like we're in a good spot in the bullpen, especially with Lugo coming back. And the starting rotation looks dominant, and we still don't even have the 2 starters in Syndergaard and Cookie. So I feel like it's a good time to be a Mets fan, and we're trending in the right direction. And going into the Red Sox game, I feel like we need to win the game with DeGrom on the mound. That's a must win. I feel confident saying that. We need to give him a W. I hate that he's only 2-1. He deserves to be 3-0. He does not deserve to have an L in that win in that loss column.
No, not at all.
But let's give him another W. Let's give him some run support. The first game against the Sox, I'm a little concerned because Peterson's going up against a very hefty Red Sox lineup. And I think the X factors come to scoring runs. And that's really it, man. Scoring runs, capitalizing on runners in scoring position. Let's score 5 runs in each game.
I agree. Yeah, no, that's the biggest thing. It's kind of funny how the Mets, who have had their struggles with running a scoring position in the past, it's like, I know that they've had a altered start to the season, not ideal, but to see them like struggling this mightily at times, it's like, damn, it's like, okay, I know it's not going to last all year. I pray to God it doesn't, but I'm really, really looking forward to when it finally, breaks out, when we get everyone kind of gelled and clicking. And my guess is that'll happen sometime in May. Whether that's early or late May has yet to be determined, but I think May should hopefully be the big month for the Mets when they start to show more so of their full potential than not. But we hear a great comment here. Let's see here. A Base, thank you so much, my man, for the donation. Really does mean a lot. Guys, let's get some hype in the chat from my man Base over here for the dono. Really does mean a lot, my friend, or Bass, however you pronounce it. When is Lugo coming back? Well, first of all, thank you so much again for the donation. I really appreciate that, buddy. Dono hype in there for you. But Lugo is expected to be back in May. That is the belief as of now. Rojas made a comment again recently about the status. I think Zach Scott did too, of Lugo, and it looks like he will be back in May. So he is in direction fully to be ready before Thor's. So that's a good thing in that sense, where we could get him back, him and Cookie respectively, in the month of May. Now, do I have an exact date for you? No, I don't, but it does look like May is the target month as of now. Everything looks like it's kind of going on par. I think he was a little delayed at first when he was starting to heal up, but yeah, I think he's going to be good. I really do. So yeah, thank you so much again for the donation, my man. I appreciate that. Got MLB The Show. That's awesome. So do I. I played my first online MLB The Show game ever yesterday, because I really haven't played it much because I'm an Xbox guy. And I had a no-hitter going into the 9th inning with 2 outs with Jacob Degrom on the mound against the Astros, and the guy rage quitted. So he took my no-hitter away. But hey, he still got the dub, so I'll take that.
My story with the show is funny. The first 2 games that I ever played online against a random, of course, they came against the Yankees. I scored 9 runs on Garrett Cole, made him rage quit in the 2nd inning, and then I went over again versus the Yankees, made him rage quit in the 2nd inning again, which was wild. And then the 3rd online rated game against the Yankees again. I don't know why I keep versing the Yankees, but that was a really good game. Pitching duel. It was 0-0 all the way into the 8th inning. And then Brendan Nemo gets me on the board with a homer, and I win 2-0. So MLB The Show's dope. If you guys want to see me create MLB The Show content on my channel, let me know, because I do it with my Jets channel with Madden. I do it with my Knicks channel with 2K. So if you guys want to see Mets, me representing the New York Mets online or something like that, let me know, because I love to create content.
That's a great idea. That might be something I do eventually down the road, just once time presents itself. That's literally the only thing for me. I just don't have the patience to be sitting there, because when I'm playing video, I'm like, dude, I could literally be prepping video ideas or something along those lines right now. That's the only reason why I don't game as much as I used to. But yeah, maybe throughout the season for me. But guys, yeah, if you're interested in that, definitely check out Richie's channel again. But how's it going, Garden State Gardener? Appreciate you chiming in. Y'all should drop your MLB The Show accounts for us to add and play y'all. Yeah, no, I'll do that once I'm sold on the idea of actually playing the show a couple times. So when that happens, you got it. I'll do it. Until then, I just don't want to do it yet. So soon, you'll see. I love to see you on Twitch. All right, there you go. So Richie, he wants to see you on Twitch. A lot of people have talked to me about Twitch too. I might do that eventually. Again, I would do Twitch mainly for gaming probably.
Yeah, if I ever do live streaming for gaming, I'll probably go on Twitch. I just don't know how people will find me. Like, if I make a Twitch account, do I link it to my YouTube? Like, if I go live on Twitch, I feel like my subscribers won't know I'm over there.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone will, but I'm sure Twitch probably has some type of thing, like we're trending hashtags or terms, that if you're doing MLB The Show, like once you search MLB The Show, you'll be in there. It's just a matter of how flooded will that be? Like, when will you pop up? I'm sure it's something along those lines. But we have a big donation here from my man, Bill. Bill, thank you so much for the dono, buddy. It means a lot. How many games are in the Boston series do you expect JD Davis to start? Both Red Sox starters are righties. Yep. Well, first of all, thank you so much, my man, for the donation. I appreciate that, Bill. Really does mean a lot, buddy. And to answer that, a part of me thinks JD will start both those games. JD can hit righties just fine. Does he smash lefty pitchers at times like he did Corbin? Yes. But JD has perfectly fine numbers against righties in his career. So I honestly expect JD to start both games, unless he has a huge defensive woe in one of those games. It would have to be the first game. Outside of that, I do believe that he'll be there for both games. Would you agree, Richie, or disagree?
Yeah, I feel like his bat is too hot right now. That I got to keep him in the lineup, even against righties.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that we will probably see him in both games. But again, thank you so much for the bill. I mean, not for the bill, for the donation, Bill. I appreciate that, buddy. Guys, let's get some dono hype in there for sure. Let's see here. I had a phone call, missed part of your video. What do I think about Diaz this year? Again, in a nutshell, I think Diaz has looked like money, Larry. I think Diaz has looked. Yes. Oh my God. Literally hypes me up so much, dude. His trumpet. I think that Diaz has looked better than expected in a little bit of ways. I think he's proving people wrong early. He had one outing against the Marlins where everything went wrong, not just for him, but for Degrom, everyone, and the offense. Everything was just abysmal, unfortunately.
I was there.
Yeah, I know. But outside of that, things have been good for Diaz. If he keeps this up, he's definitely going to be one of the best relievers in baseball this year for sure. He's been throughout his career. He had that fluke 2019, but relievers are like roller coasters, man. They have their highs and their lows. They're very odd. They're very odd. Diaz could have a dominant year this year and then have a 4+ ERA next year and then go back to dominant. It's weird. It happens with a lot of relievers, though. It's not nearly as uncommon as maybe as what you guys make it out to be. Let's see here. Post a video on YouTube saying you're live and delete when the stream is over. Yeah, that's not a bad idea too, Matthew. Good point. Good point for sure. 6 likes away from 100. Awesome. Thank you all so much for the likes and support, guys. I appreciate that. Why your comments getting ignored? They're not getting ignored, Shy. I apologize. Again, I don't answer everyone's single comment just because they go quick. That's the only reason why, depending on the topics we're on. I'm going back now. Actually, I see your last comment here. I don't know why a lot of people are having trouble with the idea of Pearson coming out of the pen. I don't know who's necessarily having trouble with Pearson out of the pen. I think the bigger thing is you can't just necessarily throw a guy from a starter to a reliever right away. There's no telling of how sold the Mets are on that belief and how Peterson would adjust. There are natural concerns when you're having a guy who is young, former first-round pick with potential in Pearson, and you throw him in the pen. Even if it's short-term because you're doing it for this season, maybe next year he has a more solidified spot. That is the biggest thing with Pearson. I think we're going to see one of Pearson or Lucchesi in the pen this year. I do. But yeah, no, I don't. I haven't really seen people griping about Pearson hitting the pen as I have them saying that if he does hit the pen, what are we going to get out of it? Like, how certain is that? That, I think, is probably the bigger thing that most Mets fans are commenting on regarding that. Can we call up Yamamoto? We could, but I don't see it happening right now just because Lucchesi got called down to the alternate site only because, in part, because of his outing, but two, the Mets don't need a fifth starter again, assuming no injuries, nothing like that, until May 4th, I believe. So there's no reason to have him on the roster right now. And that's why they sent him. So Yamamoto, I like Yamamoto a lot. I do think we'll see him this year out of a reliever role, out of his swing man, out of his spot starter. I have no clue right now, but Yamamoto will be up soon. I'm excited for him. Are you excited for him, Richie? I think he's a guy that could actually be fairly serviceable. Maybe a little bit more than what Mets fans initially expected when they picked him up because he was straight up. I believe he was DFA'd by the Marlins. Yeah.
I mean, when we do see him, hopefully it's not because of injuries, because I feel like that's the only really scenario where we would call him up. Hopefully it's like you said, it's a spot starter or he gets some burn in the bullpen because they're tired out there or something like that. I think Yamamoto has still a lot of gas left in the tank. He's not that old. I mean, he's young. He's a young prospect, right? So I feel like he's a guy, whenever I feel like his time on the Marlins, I just remember us raking against him. But we'll see what he does when he comes up to the Mets. I just hope that whenever we see him, it's not because we have a lot of injuries.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, that's what you don't want. The good thing, though, is that the Mets at least have that security now. If an injury happens, like we saw with Cookie already, that like they can make up for it. Even though that Pearson and Lucchesi haven't necessarily been absolute studs to start the year, that it hasn't been the end-all situation for the Mets yet. And that's a good thing. You want that depth. Yamamoto will bring that depth. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can bring to this club. But I don't see him getting called up just yet. If he does get called up for a fifth starter, fifth spot, it probably won't be until first week in May. That means that they would pick Yamamoto over Lucchesi. And I don't know if he's necessarily earned that right yet, just from a performance standpoint. I know the Mets do like Lucchesi quite a bit. He hasn't been stellar just yet as a starter, so who knows? Maybe he will have a shorter leash than I initially anticipated when he became starter to start the season. Lucchesi does not look comfortable out there. See, Lucchesi is kind of an oddball. I think he's one that looked really good in a couple innings, and then defense went bad to an extent, but he just got shelled in Chicago. A lot of that was weather, other things, but still, in a nutshell, yeah, he didn't look great. He didn't look great against Colorado either. He's just one of those guys where I do believe his best fit will be out of the pen. I really do. Probably more so as a reliever, kind of like Gizoma, where he could take multiple innings. But, man, that curve and fastball combo is great. I think if he can add maybe one more pitch in his arsenal, then he would even have more nasty stuff. Because that's the only gripe about him, I would say, is his stuff is fairly predictable. You're getting the fastball, you're getting the curve. There's no really in between, at least from what I've seen the past year and a half or so of him pitching. But that's my stance on Lucchesi and everyone in between. So just read more of your comments. What about McWilliams? McWilliams, I believe, is either in AAA. I think he's with AAA. I don't think he's with the alternate site. They probably just want to get his command down. McWilliams is a guy we will probably see sooner than later within the next month or two, but I think Drew Smith will actually crack this bullpen before Sam McWilliams does, because Smith is at the alternate site right now. He is back from being on the injured list because he had a flare-up. I believe it was his shoulder or his elbow right towards the end of sprain. Because if that didn't happen, I think he probably would have cracked the pen. Close to.
Yeah.
And Ghostway here with a donation. Thank you so much, my man. I appreciate that, guys. Hype in the chat for my man Ghostway. He says, how do you feel with Stroman last start? In a nutshell, I don't think it's anything to put too much stock in. I think it was just one of those games. Stroh is not going to be dominant the way Degrom usually is every fifth day. Again, I said for a while that if Stroh can pitch to a 3.5 or even a sub 3 ERA this season, that's huge. That's massive. That's exactly what you want for your number 2 or your number 3. So to see him on a Cy Young pace early on, that was fantastic. But realistically, he probably won't be like that all year long. I hope he proves me wrong, but it was just one of those outings. It was unfortunate for Stroh. Defense wasn't on his side either by any stretch of the imagination. It doesn't help when you have a poor defense behind you when you're a ground ball pitcher. So take those things into account. But that's my kind of stance on Stroh's last start, and I think he'll be just fine. Is there anything that you would like to add into that, Richie?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it was destined for him to get lit up a little bit. For him to have a sub 1 ERA, it's not going to last. So I feel like he has the right mindset to deal with adversity, and I'm not concerned with Stroman. I think he's going to go out dealing the next time we see him on the mound, and I'm excited for that. And I just want to ask, what time do you think we're going to finish off the stream? Just because I forgot to tell you, I am going live on my Knicks channel at 3 to preview the game tonight.
Well, we're literally going to wrap up probably in the next 5 minutes, as long as that's good with you.
All right, cool. I just wanted to make sure because I forgot to let you know I'm going live at 3.
Okay, so you're doing the pregame stream?
Yeah, just like a little preview about the game tonight, and then I'm going live on my Jets channel 5. So I got a lot of streams today, so I'm trying to map it out. I got to eat something beforehand.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And I'm not going live, but I have to record at 3:45 with my buddy for the Rangers. So fairly soon. So I hear you. So we're going to wrap things up here in a minute, guys. We'll answer a couple more questions, then we'll get out of here. But again, thanks so much to everyone that have been chiming in. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream, and I hope you guys, if you're a Knicks fan, make sure you're watching the Knicks games tonight. There's no Mets baseball, so make sure you're watching those New York Knicks. They're going for 10 straight against the Phoenix Suns. Tall task. D-Rose didn't even know the Suns were good this year because he was stuck watching Billions, just for a fun fact. But I like the Knicks' chances tonight. It's an uphill battle, but if they get those double digits, man, that's going to be fun. So again, thanks so much to everyone that chimed in. I'm excited for the series for the Red Sox. And guys, look out. I will probably have up later today at some point, or maybe even after this, I'll have up the streams array for the Tuesday and Wednesday game against the Red Sox. You'll see the header there. You guys can click on put on your notifications, all that great stuff, so you guys are ready for 2 4+ hour long streams. That should hopefully be a good series for the Mets, right? But to see some more comments, Dominic, thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate you always, my friend. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Luis Castillo could be available at the deadline because he has been pretty bad to start this year. That's true, Matt. Again, another guy to keep an eye out. I'll be a little surprised if the Mets go after Castillo. But if they do, then it's clearly they want a guy with longevity that can have control for multiple years on his contract. But I would love Castillo. I think we all would. We talked about him plenty in the offseason. But again, thank you all so much, guys. I appreciate you. I'm just reading more of your comments here before we get out of here. We need to trade a third baseman that can field, doesn't need a hit because we have a good offense. I agree with extent, Ghostway. I hope JD defensive woes don't hinder him the remainder of the year, because if so, he won't have a future with the Mets. So I hope his bat can continue to stay hot or, decent. If he's hitting upwards of 300 this year, damn, that's a good thing. At least he's helping offensively. And thank you all so much for the likes. We hit past 100. That means a lot. And just thank you all so much, guys. So that's going to wrap up this stream. Mets baseball fans, let's go Mets, baby. Big series against the Red Sox coming up. Richie, any closing remarks before we get out of here?
Yeah, man, we got a big series against the Sox, a 2-game one. Let's hopefully split it, if not sweep it. That's the 2 scenarios we want to come out with this one. And yeah, I appreciate all the Mets fans tuning into our weekly segment on Mets Talk over on here on Wardy's channel and my channel. If you guys subscribe to Mets Media, make sure you do so. It means the world to me. And guys, if you guys are Knicks fans, go check out Knicks Media. I'll be live over there in about 20 to 30 minutes to preview the game tonight. And also, if you guys are Jets fans, I'll be live over at 5 to preview the NFL draft, which is this week. So it's a big week for sports, and I appreciate all the support from you guys. And let's go Mets. You got to believe, baby.
Let's go Mets, baby. Thank you all so much. Smash those buttons. Subscribe to Richie if you haven't already, guys. And have a great day. I will see you all tomorrow probably around, if it's a 7 o'clock start, I'll probably be around 6:30 stream. So keep an eye out for around that time for tomorrow's stream for the game. Have a great day, guys.
Awesome.
Let's go Mets, baby, and I'll talk to you soon. You got it.